I'm live, it says. So hello, it is Mike Levin on when is it? It is Mike Levin on Monday, July 25th, 2022. And this is going to be more of a technical one. It's my first time actually streaming in a while. To tell you the truth, this is my first time streaming in my new location, so different background, whatever. So it takes a while to get back into the swing of things. Things are different than they were before for me. So, for example, whenever I open one of my new text terminals, not only does it bring me into this nicely color-coded Linux terminal that shows me I'm inside a Python virtual env for Python 3.10, isolating all my Python dependencies. Not only does it show me, this nice color coding here, if I cd'd into a repo, I don't know, journal, it would also show me what branch I am currently set to in that repo. So that's pretty cool. cd ... go back a directory, level up, clear. Now watch closely as I lxme. My requester changes. I'm in a different container. It's also a Python 3.10 virtual environment. So my container also has the same kind of setup with a GitHub master repo with all my sub-repos in there. It's not a master repo, it's my GitHub. It's a place where I put GitHub repos, really. And yeah, my username changed from Healus at hostname Lundervand to username Ubuntu at hostname Gluckinglas. So I can exit back out just like that, and I'm back to my, call it a host. It's kind of weird what I'm doing lately, but it's all been local on my machine, and it's all been so that I can do all kinds of tricks that are desirable for working with Windows and Linux at the same time. So Windows is always there as that sort of pre-installed operating system, but more and more often I'm doing things in a very Linux-centric way under the Windows subsystem for Linux, which makes Windows and Linux, equal operating systems under the hypervisor. And under Linux now, more and more often, almost always, I am creating LXD instances of Linux containers. Now the whole punchline here is that this whole thing is on my laptop. Which is not running like a server. It goes to sleep, as do all the things in here. And that is not the way you want things running 24/7. You can design for 24/7, but then when you want to run for 24/7, so you can design for 24 hours a day times 7 days a week. But when you're ready to really run something 24/7, that is what this video is about. So I have a network application server. There are two big ones. These are kind of like home servers, home cloud servers. There's two really big ones out there. There's QNAP, which I'm using. You see these things, you can get them for a few $100. And then there's Synology. Now I chose QNAP because it includes HDMI ports and you can use them as media centers. It's like having, you have less and less, like desktops don't have reasons to have monitors and keyboards and stuff attached to it. You want to hook your media consumption, like your big screen, to it, and use it to serve your files to your other devices like your phones if you keep a master copy of movies and your photos of a lifetime. This is the type of device it would go into. See how many hard drive bays it has? You would use multiple hard drive bays, for example, as a single drive. So if any of them fail, you swap out old ones, put in new ones. That's a simple mirroring. It can be sliced and diced a number of ways. So I actually got to this point. It's like mission accomplished, you know, boom, all done. Now I'm moving over. So when something is like working 24/7, you want to move it over here, but your NAS, which is in fact still running Linux as its main operating system, is doing this same trick of LXD containers, which are running 24/7. And that runs like a server. Network application server. So it's running like a server. So that's what this video is about right now. So I'm going to go see if anyone's joining in. I'll maybe break out the search thing. Yeah, down to 0 viewers. That's okay. It's been a while since I've been on. There were 2 concurrent viewers, and this thing often lies. So I'm going to proceed just as if this is going to be one of my best videos ever, which everyone always is. I got to have that attitude when starting out. So this NAS server here, I actually on the previous video did a lot of that and have it ready to double click and try and run. And I guess this will be kind of a before and after. We need a few more virtual screens here, right? We go to this one here. This icon here attaches to that LXD, that container, but as you can see, connection refused, blah, 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 blah. So I've done everything necessary to route the traffic into this location, but I don't have it turned on. So I'll close out of that. I'll go over to here and go into the QNAP software, and you can see it's actually not running. So that thing says start, and I will go ahead and do that. I'll start it. Starting containers. So what you just saw was a before, and so now if I go out to that available window, virtual desktop, double click that, it should bring it up with the password prompt, and that's the subject of this video, getting rid of this password prompt. So if I type my password in, it'll let me in. So we're trying to get to this, but without that password prompt, because I want to use this really rapidly. And then we're going to get to some other stuff as well. So since we're logged in, I will do a ls. You can see it's just got these 2 directories. It's starting to look like the systems over here, which have those 2 directories plus only one more, one called data, right? So that's where I left off on the last video, because getting data to be present on this machine was a nice trick from Microsoft. Boy, they have this way of getting Samba drives and this other format they use, but getting those drives connected. I did a CIFS, right? So if you're trying to get a SMB, a Samba or a CIFS network path connected to one of your Windows subsystem for Linux containers, it's really quite easy. I nailed it at some point during this. I went through a long process, and then I just came to that discovery, that realization that it's a line almost as simple as this. It's this line as simple as this. First, you create a mount location, so you need a place for it to be mounted, and then you sudo mount -t drvfs, and then you give the universal path, the UNP, inside single quotes, and then where you're going to map it into. So this is how I got this location, which, by the way, on the network it's on the network. It's not local. It's located on this machine here. So whenever I talk about data, there's a directory that, aside from creating this, it's like a whole separate thing from it's sharing data. Right? right? So those are the two things I'm doing with this Linux server here. I'm making a data share, and then I'm making a general purpose Linux system available. So those are two separate things I'm doing with this NAS server. And that's where that data directory is coming from. And so in order to get rid of that password prompt, it wouldn't hurt to have that data directory mapped in. And I was looking for ways to do that. So once it was mapped in with that really neat trick, once it was mapped in with this awesome neat trick from Windows Subsystem for Linux, I then was able to use the normal configuration of an LXD in order to bring this thing to the next one out, which is why over here, if I were to LXME, which by the way, profile, whenever I type LXME, it's just an alias for this longer command, LXC exec, name of the container, looking last, switch user, login, Ubuntu. So I'll copy that into my copy buffer so I can paste that, and you can see when I do that, it brings me to a new container. See that new container there? And it, if I cd ... and do an ls there, you will see it has data. So data GitHub Pi 310, data GitHub Pi 310 under two different locations. The Linux host, right? So this has that set up, right? So this Linux host has all that neat stuff set up. These sub Linuxes have that neat stuff set up. And so now this one here, ironically enough, only doesn't have this data share. So what I'm about to do is put that data share over here so that I can share files between all three locations using that data location, right? So how do we do that? It turns out that there's advanced settings here under QNAP's Container Station. You get to it by clicking on the name of the container itself, while this container tab or navigation element here is highlighted. Now that's the first step. So now you've got this settings thing. Second step is to click that. Now under settings, you've got this interface, which now hides your ability to do things under here, advanced settings. So that click there brings you to advanced settings. And you can see this is where I set up the network address translation. This was a necessary thing in order to do these attempts to log in, right? So those attempts to log in here are only possible because that icon that does this is making the SSH request of port 2222, which gets forwarded to port 22 in this machine. So many little details. There's a lot to keep track of. I hope that this is not what I'm encouraging as the mainstream. I'm just doing my trick so that I can develop the way that I expect most people will be developing over the next year or two, a little bit in advance. That is, having it mostly set up Linux-centric on your Windows laptop, and then having somewhere else where you can run things cloud-like, but without using a cloud vendor. So under here, we've got shared folders. So why use all that Samba and CFIS or whatever it is, all the network, all the Microsoft sharing protocol nonsense, when, as I'm pointing out, I'm doing it between two places on the same hardware, so it happens to have some built-in features for that. So we are going to add a shared folder. That shared folder is going to come from the host path data on my NAS. It was pre-shared as one of those, advertised as shared. I add the SMB or CIFS to it or whatever, so it knows it's being advertised as available. So one of the things you might commonly want to do with, containers you create on that same piece of hardware is mount those shares. So what is the mount point going to be? Well, it's very good practice to do it under MNT, even though you could map it directly in somewhere else under home. I'm going to do it under MNT, under data there, and then I'll do a separate symbolic link to put it into where I really want it in the home directory. So we apply that. You can see this stuff restarting here. almost certainly this one out here is going to be logged out. This one, right? See, I knew there was going to be a log out there. We'll close that. We'll log back into it. Provide the password. And now we'll confirm that that share is there. CD mnt ls, and there's the data there. And now if I go to home, cd // and do an ls, you'll see there is no data there. But if I want that data there to appear, it's here so that I can always refer to / data across all those different containers or hosts or whatever. That's pretty easy to do because we'll go to MNT for a moment so that my paths are easier to construct. We just ln, which is for linking. We create a symbolic link, and it's the from and the to. And so the from is MNT / data, and the to is /home / it's going to be Ubuntu as the user, and it's going to be data. And so now if we cd back to home, and we ls, there's data. So now we have data, GitHub, and pi31 in all three types of locations. There's even more. There's like a fourth type of location like that if you count the true Windows host. But here's the Linux host, data, GitHub, pi310, the Linux container running under the Linux host, data, GitHub, pi310, and now what we just created for the remote server, data, GitHub, pi310, right? All that good happy stuff. Isn't that great? I have the virtual env here, but I don't have a source activating that. That's probably something I'll add here, but not until after we've got these login issues smoothed out. So let's see. I guess every once in a while I should peek over if anyone's typing to me. Feel free to type to me. People are tuning in and out. No problem, no problem. It's summer, it's hot. So, to get rid of that prompt for a login, I'll remind you again by exiting and then going back into it. Right? It's going to be a lot easier to use if it just doesn't prompt us for that login. It's a common thing to want to do at one of these steps, and one of the things that keeps this from being more of an everyday kind of thing to do. None of the containers are pre-configured this way for security reasons, and then to do this is takes a little bit of knowledge and know-how from a security perspective, right? You need a certain number of things that set up beforehand just so, which they are, which I'll be sort of carrying off of. And if you don't have them that way, it might be a time to reflect and go, hey, maybe I should start using SSH keys that way too. So that's the main thing I want to move over. So ls, cd data, ls. There is a file there that I can demonstrate, move foo2.txt to foo3.txt. I do that, and then I move over to here where I have that location showing from Windows. There it is, renamed as foo3.txt. And that means I can copy over my public key for mic 2 that easily. ls, there it is, idrsa mic2.pub. Now, I happen to know that this needs to be renamed because it's got to be on the, I believe it's authorized keys. I made my notes over here. There's got to be a file named that's my kitty biting the catnip plastic. I think I'll give them some catnip. Psst, psst, psst. I know what you're looking for. There you go, Ari. Ari and Linny and Ari. Have some catnips. Oh yeah, plenty for both of these. I'll send the Roomba around later. Okay. Authorized keys. All right. So that public key needs to be renamed into authorized keys and put in a .ssh subdirectory of home. This is all by convention. This is because of stuff I know from prior lives. So mv for move id rsa, that long thing, into, and I double check my notes, authorized keys. Absolutely. I'm typing it by hand, so there's always chance for manual error. But now we want to move authorized keys. First we'll move it to just home, and then we'll cd to home, and then we'll ls there, ls-la. I don't yet have a .ssh directory there, but we'll need that because that's where this needs to go into. So I make dir .ssh. Sooner or later, every home directory has a .ssh subfolder in it for these security reasons. Now I'm going to move authorized keys into .ssh. I don't have to give anything more like slashes because Linux knows that if you're trying to do that, it'll put it inside the directory. So I can cd to .ssh, and I can ls there, and there it is, authorized keys. Again, from experience, I happen to know chmod 600 authorized keys. It might not even be a necessary step, but it makes sure it's in the permission it needs to be for that to be used the way it needs to be used. Now, I believe if I exit out, and then I just try to get in again, it still will challenge me. This is not everything necessary yet. Oh, it is. It's everything necessary. That's all I needed to do. Look at that. Ta-da! That was a good before and after. You saw that that was challenging me for the password until I shared a drive and then copied a public key from SSH keygen. I copied a public key into location and just renamed it as authorized keys. cd.ssh ls. The mere presence of this in the right chmodded file permission level is what's necessary for this program to get around needing passwords. So I guess I will go ahead and what do I want to do at this point? I want this to have the same color-coded, cool color-coded prompt. So I'll do a few of those things to make this the very equivalent of my local containers, right? Because as a number of standard conventional things. Now that I have the keys here, interesting. I have those keys, but there's some other keys that will be very useful in me attempting to get into GitHub. So I only have the authorized keys there, but I am so set up here for this awesome next step, I might as well do it. All the rest of these will be useful as well. I think I lost the public key once for for these two, but I have these private keys which might still be in use, so it's good to have them, and this private key here. So putting those private keys first over into data, they're copied and not moved, so there's a duplicate of them, which is important to know because whenever you move private keys around, you want to know where you're putting them. They are access to things. They do let people into your stuff if you let them out into the wild. So watch your keys. But now I can CP from that location. That's just ~/data, right? Everything into my current location. ls, I'll remove the foo3.txt, don't need that. But now I have all my keys in this remote container. So what does that do for me? cd ... cd GitHub. Now you'll remember on my local machines, this is full of things. Here, not so much, ain't got nothing. But I should be able to do a git clone into this location and not have anything challenged with usernames and passwords. So I got rid of another username password challenge. It's not just the one username password challenge I got around. By copying these keys into location, I should now be able to do such stupid tricks as git clone git at github.com:McLevin/vim, enter. Yes. Oh, okay. I've just got to do that same chmod 600 on all my other things. So I didn't get that directory. It stopped me from getting it because of permission stuff. So this will shed more light on that chmod 600 stuff. cd ~/.ssh ls-la, and whatever I did to authorize keys, see how I took away so many of those permissions, that line going across that's what's necessary on key type things in order for the software accessing it to believe that they're uncompromised. It's just one tiny little double check to make sure that everything is kosher. So chmod 600 ID RSA, chmod 600 ID RSA.mic, mic2, and I believe that's all that's necessary. I should probably keep the public key there. There's no reason not to, just because it's also the authorized keys file. There's no reason to not keep it there. All right, that completes that. So something I just tried to do before should be possible. Oh yeah, cloning. cd ~/GitHub git clone my Vim repo. Bam! ls, there's my Vim repo. cp vim/.vimrc into ~/. Now my vimrc is in place, and git config. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that just was right there that makes it like this is home for me now. So let's do one more, which is, maybe it's in cp vim, not cp vim, cd vim ls-la. There's other stuff so my bash profile, that's interesting, but there's actually a bash prompt that gives you this wonderful color coding that these other things have for knowing where they're at, and that's great color coding on as I want to be consistent with all this. So that comes from something that is bash prompt. Oh yeah, I was just trying to exit. you can start to see how useful these common paths are. Now let's test that. I'm going to take a look inside the bash profile. I'm just going to go over here and look at my bash profile, because there's a special way of calling it with this. And there's the color coding. So to make that permanent, I just vim tilde forward slash. I'll copy the bash profile from here. cp.bash profile to tilde forward slash, and then vim tilde forward slash bash profile dot bash profile, and make sure that there's nothing here that isn't really incorrect. Yes, making those couldn't hurt. This doesn't apply. Oh, activating, yeah, activating the the Pi310, which is already sitting there, and then doing this bash prompt. We don't need that. That'll never be applicable here. All right, I guess that's good for now. Right, quit, exit. And now jumping into here is going to feel tremendously more home than normal. Look at that. Look at how nice that is. The Python 3.10 virtual env is activated. If I were to type Python on its own, you'll see I'm in 3.10.5. All my development will be the identical now across all my systems because of that, right? You see that. If I'm on my host machine, right, that is the equivalent of this one here. This one here. I guess I'll do a different color for circling these things. And maybe even a layer, right? Layer couldn't hurt. So this, brighter purple, is this one here, Heal Us at Lundervand. More accurately, that's Lundervand. I'm not going to bother with that sort of stuff. But this next one here that I'm about to activate with an LXME, you'll see it's no longer in Lundervand, it's in Gluckinglas. Gluckinglas, I'm going to have to get used to that, or change it so I don't have to get used to it. If I type Python in there, there's that same 3.10.5. And now when I go off machine, right, this next one I'm about to show you is over here. It's not even that one, it's this one here, right? That's 3.10.5 as well. And the features that I have in common is, you know, fast login. Easy GitHub cloning. I'm just going to call it my GitHub repos. And then they also now all have a common data location. There's a few other things I could list that is really awesome about this setup, but we're now about to get into systemd because I can develop things right now. This is really about these systemd daemons that I want to develop. That are sort of tied to a machine like this, that when I deploy them, they go over here for 24/7 running, even without being on the cloud. Right, so that's what we're doing here. It's this movement here that's so important to me. Wow, that covered quite a bit in that little sweeping thing. That was quite deserving of the live chat, or I mean of the live stream. There's almost nobody here, but I have been quite absent for a while. But this should generate some renewed interest, because this is a way of working that I think is going to be super useful for lots and lots of people. And it didn't take nearly as much as I thought it was going to get this system here back in use, getting rid of the prompts of being under some old LXC file format technology or something, and getting this to be an extremely close, synchronization with all my other systems. Now, the GitHub has very little compared to what's on my local laptop system, because my local laptop system is pulling everything from out of the same set of repositories. So if I clone it once, it's cloned everywhere. Here, because of the physical connection between the machines, I'm not doing that for my GitHub repos. It would be too large of a performance hit to pull that off of the network. But when I cd ... and I do this, this is being pulled off of the network. In fact, it's more accurate to say that when I'm on my laptop, this location is being pulled off of the network when I'm on my laptop. But when I'm on this machine, it's being pulled from the host machine, the host Linux machine here. There are two host Linux machines in this picture. This is a host. Host feels blue. And this is a host. Right? All right, so that pretty much covers that. I'm quite pleased with this, and that's worth saving. I'm not going to waste your time with that. If anyone wants to chime in with chat or anything, it is now or never. I'm about to stop this stream and call this a great success. Make sure my audio is on that whole time. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Yes, it is. I sure can see.